and welcome to Stories for Wonderful Children. I'm Dan Wendelin, your host and storyteller. Years ago, I began recording the bedtime stories I told my children every night. Now, I'd like to share those stories with you. I hope you enjoy my Stories for Wonderful Children. There's a little girl named Winella, and she lives in a very special house, full of many special rooms. But the most special room is Winella's room, because everything in it is blue and pink. The walls are pink, and the floor is blue.
Why did you say
Oh, just to be a little different. The dog is blue, and the cat is pink. Everything in Winella's room is pink and blue except for one thing. That's right. And Rebecca, what color is the ceiling fan?
purple?
That's right. Now, on most days the ceiling fan is purple, but recently Winella's daddy had installed a dial on the wall of her room, and she could turn the dial, and when she turned the dial, the ceiling fan would turn different colors, so it could be any color she wanted it to be. And this particular day, Winella had turned the dial so that the ceiling fan was teal, with sort of slightly purple little tips to the fan blades. It was sort of pretty to watch it go around. Winella had decided that today she really felt like swimming. But there was a problem. When she woke up, it was raining outside, and not just a little bit of rain, but a really hard, steady rain. Winella thought that maybe she could go out anyway since she would be wet, but her mommy said that she'd heard thunder earlier, and so would not allow Winella to go out in her pools outside. But Winella put on her bathing suit anyway and went down to the basement. Now in the basement of Winella's house, there are several things that you already know about. The sad bear lives under the stairs, and Sarah Mae Figment lives in a room with a purple door, but most of Winella's basement is taken up with a swimming pool. And in the swimming pool, there lives Dolly. Dolly is a bottlenose dolphin who is injured and needed some place to stay where people would feed her, and Winella's family volunteered. So Winella's swimming pool is really, I don't know, probably a shark. Sharks and dolphins don't get along well. So, Winella, before she went downstairs with her swimsuit on, she opened the refrigerator and walked inside and walked back to where the fish were stored. She got a bucket of fish and she took them down to feed to Dolly. She stood on the edge of the pool and she said, which is dolphin for Dolly, it's Winella, lunchtime. Dolly's gray head poked up above the water, and she said, and Winella tossed a fish out, and Dolly caught it in midair. She jumped up out of the water. Beautiful, sleek gray skin, shining, dripping water running off the sides, and she snatched that fish out of the air and disappeared back into the water with almost no splash. She was so sleek streamlined. Well, Winella didn't see her, but she picked up 2 more fish anyway and tossed them up in the air, and Dolly came flying out of the water and caught both fish, and had swallowed them both before she was even back into the water with a splash. And then Winella said, "Okay, Dolly, last one," and she took the fish and she held it out between 2 fingers. She held it by the tail, and Dolly came up out of the water and gently took the fish out of Winella's hand. And then Winella took a deep breath and jumped right into the pool. Very quickly, she felt Dolly bump up against her leg, and Winella grabbed on to Dolly's dorsal fin and sat on her back, and Dolly swam around the pool so fast that it was amazed Winella. And then Winella took a deep breath, held her nose, and patted Dolly on the back, and Dolly went under the water, and Winella held on really close around her back, and Dolly swam all the way around the pool from one side to the other while Winella was still just holding that single breath. And And then Dolly came back up to the surface. Winella took another deep breath. And then she held it, and she went under the water. Dolly swam down to the very bottom of the pool with her, and Winella let go of Dolly and crawled forward until she was standing on Dolly's nose. And then Dolly shot up out of the water, straight up into the air, and Winella felt like she was flying. And then she jumped off the tip of Dolly's nose at the very top of the jump, and she dove back down into the water with a splash. She looked around for Dolly, but Dolly was so fast, such a gray color that just matched the water, that it was very difficult for Winella to see her, because it really was a very deep swimming pool. So Winella swam back up to the surface, and she thought, what shall we do now? And then she knew. She got a net from one side of the pool and stretched it from one side of the pool to the other, up above the water. And then she got a ball. She said, Dolly, want to play volleyball? But Dolly must not have heard her, so Winella went, and Dolly's head popped up on the other side of the net. Winella popped the ball over the net, and Dolly shot up out of the water and hit the ball with her nose, and it went flying back over. And Winella had to swim very fast to get over to where the ball was, but she hit it back over the net. And Dolly was right there. Hit it back up in the air with her tail. Winella caught it and served it back to her, and Dolly bopped it back over, and this time Winella was not quite fast enough, and the ball hit the water, and Dolly said, and Winella said, yes, a point for you. She said, your serve, and she gave the ball back to Dolly. And Dolly let the ball sit on the surface of the water and then popped up from underneath, and the ball flew up over the net, but Winella was waiting for that. She was right in front of the net. She jumped up and blocked the ball, and it fell back down in the water, and so now Winella, they each had 1 point. And then it was time for the final serve of the game. And Winella served it up over the net, and Dolly was right there, blocking it right back down off the net, and Winella had to lunge for it, and she just barely got the ball up into the air with the tip of her foot. She just kicked out and got it, and it wobbled over the net, but Dolly was right there and did a backflip, and with her tail smacked that ball right down over the net back into the water. And Winella said, good game, Dolly. And Dolly said, said, okay, Dolly, well, thank you. Had fun playing with you. And Dolly said, which is dolphin for bye now. Then Winella climbed out of the swimming pool. She rolled up the net, and she could see that it was time for lunch. So she climbed up the stairs and said, hey, Mommy, what's for lunch? And her mommy said, well, macaroni and cheese is for lunch. Would you like to help me make it? And Winella said, sure. And her mommy said, well, you get the bowl and the macaroni, and I'll grate the cheese. So Winella got a bowl down, and she got some macaroni. And then her mommy wasn't quite done grating the cheese yet, so Winella went over to the grater, and she could rub the cheese up and down the grater to make the cheese into smaller bits so that it would melt nicely over the macaroni. And her mommy put the macaroni into the boiling water, and the macaroni cooked until it was soft and tender. And then Winella helped her mommy sprinkle the cheese over the ravioli and over the macaroni, and the macaroni was so hot that the cheese melted really quickly. And then Winella ate it, and it was so good. There was nothing better than fresh macaroni and cheese that you had just made yourself. And she had with it a glass of jungle juice with her macaroni and cheese, and also a small piece of toast.
We don't have jungle juice.
You're right, we don't. Although that Harvest Surprise Juicy Juice is sort of close.
We would have to go to a different grocery store to get some jungle juice.
That's true. So anyway, that was what Winella did that morning. And that's the story.
Now it's my turn.
Thanks for listening to Stories for Wonderful Children. I created today's story, but questions and clever commentary were supplied by my children. The intro and outro music is by Brandon Thompson. If you enjoy the show, please tell someone about it, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Our email is storiesforwonderfulchildren@gmail.com, And you can also find us on Facebook or Twitter. I'm Dan Winella, reminding you to tell someone you love a story.